Um, I've been involved with creativity and the creative process for my entire life, really. And I moved from music. I still do music, obviously, but I do music. But I also do a lot of other things in different creative areas, from art to business, some stuff with startups. I do a lot of speaking to companies and to institutions about creativity and the creative process. So it just seemed like a natural thing to want to write a book, to really get more into the details of the creative process. I have a very broad definition of creativity, and it's more than because I think the creative process is something that is really a methodology, right? It's a way of thinking. It's a way of thinking about the world and a way of thinking about situations and the way you interact with the world. And if you can divorce yourself from the genre you're working in, then that creative process can be transported and superimposed on many different things. It's really a transportable skill set. And then suddenly all sorts of things become interesting because you can take the things that I take the things that I learned within music, and I can take that knowledge and that process, and I can use it on all kinds of different things, and those things become very interesting to me. Comes to you.
At what point did you start thinking in these terms and thinking of having this as another thing you do
I mean, I was
specifically?
I was living in New York City. I was living in the East Village, and the music business was getting pounded. I mean, the rise of the internet, the rise of digital, essentially changed the way the music business worked, right? And as I started to watch this transition and the way the music business was reacting to it, I got very interested in the internet and the way that the new technology and the new digital form was really changing the way we communicate, not just in music, but really in all businesses and across disciplines. And so that sort of sucked me down this rabbit hole of really getting fully geeky and into the web, and really starting to explore and learn about first the web, startup technology, the way lean startups operate, and that kind of methodology. And then once I started looking at those things, the way startup creativity works, I really started to compare it to the way artistic creativity works, and I found that those things are very, very similar. We roll out things very much the same way. The way we build, the way we iterate, the way we learn. It's the same sort of process. There's a sort of a status quo myth that creativity is sort of much more of a magic pill. That there's a magic moment and a magic bullet, and then there are certain people that have that and that can have those moments all the time, and the rest of us can't. And I think that people within, working creative people within creative disciplines know that most of your time working on whatever field you're working on is about grinding, and the moments of inspiration are few and far between, but it's how you work to deliver those moments of inspiration, right? And that's the same whether you're working in entrepreneurship, startups, in music, in art. That thing is a constant. Most of what we do is working hard and grinding it out. There's much more in music. There's much more time spent scheduling and learning your instrument and emailing than there is on stage. That's just the nature of how it works. The same with any discipline. My wife is an interdisciplinary theater artist, site-specific theater, and if you really look at how their time is spent, it really is spent on all the other things, and very little time is actually spent in that moment of in moment of creation in the studio or on stage.
So let's talk a little while about the title of the book. It's an eye-catching title. For me, a kind of counterintuitive one. I tend to think of an elephant, a running elephant, as a terrifying, huge,
Right.
lumbering thing that can probably crush me.
Right.
So let the elephants run.
I mean, it really comes from this idea we have in the studio, where it's very easy to limit your imagination. There's so many ways that we limit our imagination, and we bring ideas down um, to manageable chunks. So we'll, instead of dreaming of a massive idea that may well be unattainable, we'll try and dream about ideas that are much more limited. And in the studio, at the beginning of a process, um, we have this mantra, which is, dream pink elephants, dream big, fuck off pink elephants, because the reality of the creative process is those dreams and ideas get beaten down through the process naturally to something that's manageable and that can be delivered, right? There's a million things already going to limit you all along the way. But if you don't dream quite large and have this freedom of imagination at the beginning, you will never, by the time you get done, you'll never have a reasonable size idea. So if at the beginning you can really let the ideas breathe and have life before we start crushing them, right? I started this book like I think everyone starts a book. You know, we have an idea of what we'd like to make, and then you open the laptop and you start to write, and it goes great for about, 5 pages, and then the next 10 pages are a struggle, and then, there's Walking Dead is on television, and so you drift off, and slowly you start to leave the idea of what you were making behind because it's hard to do. So with the book, just like everything else, I really had to go back to my process. Okay, I know how to make music because I've done that a lot of times. What do I need to make a book? What's the process I need to make a book? What do I do when I make a speech? What's the process I do there? And I sort of went through my own process of what I really needed to do to make the book happen. And then I collected those elements and went back to work.